I was hitting video instead of the red button. All right. Oh, shit.
We're at the point where we just took the flywheel off of the engine, and the flywheel for this kit needs to be machined.
Right. Well, we're gonna get there. Right.
We're going to get there, but for right now,
all right, first
that's why we took it off.
Right.
And here's where we're at. Go ahead, Kirk.
All right, so actually getting this off was trickier than I thought it was. I had the bolts out. I had to beat this off. I don't know why.
Yeah, that sounds funny, by the way, but
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, but now it's falling right off and on. So are we filming?
Yeah, no, we're filming. Yeah,
right.
You were just at the part where you got done beating off.
Yeah, beating the aluminum off. Yeah.
Okay.
The
aluminum.
So yeah, actually we had 6 bolts holding this on, and these were so encased in oil, I missed them, you know. But even once I got them on, that dowel there and that dowel there would not let this off. Okay. I went to put the adapter plate on, and the instructions say you have to you got to grind the oil pan, but I couldn't even get it on without the oil pan on. So I had to cut a good 1/4 inch off the block right here because it was hitting with the starter mounts.
It looks like it's pretty well built, at least.
Yeah, it's really
good heavy steel, right?
really neat the way it's made. And that bolts on real nice. It's a beautiful piece of steel. I mean, they did a real nice job making this. I have to hand it.
You're happy with the quality then, huh?
Oh yeah, it's crazy. All right, so the original Jeep flywheel. Here we go.
There we are.
They want this hole to be 1.5 inches. This was on here like this. I was able with my cutter and grinding wheel to cut this off, and this is exactly our 1.5 inches. Okay, so once we got that nub cut off, I was able to take our adapter, bolt it on the opposite side where it's supposed to be. Then I clamped this in my little lathe, and I came from this side, and I slowly ground it using this as my template instead of taking it back off and measuring, and it worked out beautiful. So what we're gonna have to do also, it also comes with the 6 bolts to go into the Mercedes. I also had to knock out the pilot bushing. So we got to mark these out, otherwise the Allens are going to hit. Alright, so now we got our holes marked. This flange goes on here.
The only part that really needed to be machined is that hole needed to be bigger.
That hole's got to be bigger. Yep.
That's it.
That's it. 1.5 inches across. And then of course these.
And what Kirk referred to as these is our first major goof up. The holes we drilled were sized to countersink the heads of the crankshaft adapter Allen bolts, when what we were supposed to do was size the holes like the others so it can be bolted in normally. In retrospect, it may be a stupid mistake. I would have just grabbed another flywheel from a junkyard, but Kirk had other ideas.
Alright, there it is. 12 holes. Like the adapter. And we didn't know about the 12 holes. The directions did not say 12 holes. But so we countersunk these. We weren't supposed to. I was able to go down to True Value Hardware, get some bushings, weld them in there, grind them down. Fits on the engine real nice, doesn't wobble or nothing. So it matches that.
So over and over we kept getting people looking at this project, trying to tell us and convince us that we did not need this oil pan modification for the engine to fit. So we decided to put the engine in place with the original oil pan on it to show you why it's needed. It is called the pan narrowing kit on the website, but what you need to understand is you're not narrowing the pan to fit between the frame, which of course there's plenty of room, but you're narrowing and modifying the pan to avoid hitting the pumpkin and the drive axle. As you can see, the design of this pan narrowing kit also takes the pan a step backwards, allowing the front axle much more travel, and narrowing it just enough to avoid the front pumpkin completely. That was a lot of work to go through to settle that argument, but it was necessary to satisfy everybody involved. So with it very clearly shown, why the oil pan modification kit is necessary, we can now move forward with the abundance of work that needs to go into this oil pan.
That is a lot of cutting.
With all the necessary cutting done to the pan, it's now ready to accept the pan narrowing kit, and this task is really going to put Kirk's exceptional welding and metalworking skills to the test. What you just seen condensed was originally a 5-hour video of Kirk's welding of the pan. I think he did an amazing job. While this part of the conversion can certainly be avoided by buying the prefabbed oil pan from Nate, we obviously chose a different path. Kirk is good at a lot of things, but remembering to film himself is not one of them. But the important thing is that the oil pan got put on. An important note is that any gasket you buy for this oil pan is going to be for the lower portion. The gasket from the engine block to the oil pan itself that you use to reattach this modified oil pan is something you're going to have to make yourself out of some high quality silicone. When modifying the pan, it is necessary to cut off the original oil return line from the turbo. The kit comes with the needed fittings and you make your own line, and it's simple enough to do. After the new oil return line was put on, we were able to easily enough bolt on the adapter plate and set in position the crankshaft adapter. A lot of our friends were taking interest in this project, and one of the topics of contention was whether this engine was externally or internally balanced. In the end, we gave Nate at Mercedes Diesel 4x4 the final say that the engine was internally balanced. There is certainly nobody else out there that is more experienced in this conversion. So I took the flywheel, clutch assembly, and crankshaft adapter to a local engine builder to have it neutral balanced. I also had Kirk's repaired portion of the flywheel properly surfaced so it bolted up flush. As many of you might guess, working on this Mercedes engine is not the same as working on American cars. They are much more particular. This time, we set the Allen bolts at 50 foot-pounds of torque with a torque wrench. That seems a little light, but the Mercedes mechanic we talked to insisted any more would snap them. Or, even worse, they could strip the threads out internally. As Kirk was saying in the very beginning of this video, we knew we would have to cut into the oil pan to make the starter fit. We also had to take a nice chunk out of the block, but this was a bit nerve-wracking for me. It was tough to watch Kirk hack and pound on that oil pan he had welded and fitted with such care. Kirk took the time to smooth up the surface of the cut oil pan and give it a good cleaning, and then before we knew it, it was already time to bolt on the starter. Now after getting the starter bolted on, we noticed a small problem. The starter was not engaging fully to connect with the flywheel as it should, and when the flywheel was spun a little bit, it made some contact with the bolts that held on the flex plate. But something so minor can never stop the by-the-way machine. So we whipped up this little spacer to make up for the gap that came out of resurfacing the flywheel face.
Yeah, that is drastic.
That's a huge difference in starters.
And you think the difference is because it has more leverage, because the...
Yeah, it's 1 inch taller, almost 1 inch taller, yeah.
Right.
So it's got a little more leverage.
The difference in size between the factory Mercedes starter and the starter on my little 2.5 is quite alarming. I really hope this starter holds up and is up to the task of starting this on some cold winter days. Getting the starter on there and totally ready to use took a lot of modifications. You can see some of these cuts. They're pretty drastic. But in the end, with the spacer, everything lined up correctly and we were ready to take a huge step in this process.
Bend over.
Seeing that little Jeep starter crank over that diesel was certainly satisfying, and it meant something very big, that everything was lined up and working correctly and that we could finally bolt this engine up. First, it meant removal of the old motor mounts and surfacing the frame to accept the new ones. The stock motor mounts certainly took a lot of persuasion to get off, but of course they did in the end, and we got the frame surfaced up very nice and you couldn't even tell they were ever there, perfectly ready to accept the new ones.
There's no easy task.
With the engine bolted up, we need to level and line up everything perfectly before welding the new ones in their permanent place. We really got a lot accomplished in this video, but there's still so much work to do. Alternator, power steering, cooling, heat, electrical, air filtration, and exhaust. But that's all going to have to wait until the next video, by the end of which I hope to be driving this project away. If you like my videos, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment with any questions you have. If you want to see more videos once this Jeep is completed, don't forget to subscribe because there'll be much more on the topic. Thanks for watching.